Hi, I'm Phil Constantine. On this episode of Travels with Phil, we are going to the Squirrel Cage Jail in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Why would you want to go there? Well, here's a couple of reasons for you. It has a very unique rotating design jail, a very interesting museum, and some people say it may be haunted. You can see the Missouri River in the center, Omaha, Nebraska on the left, and Council Bluffs, Iowa over on the right. This is the jail itself. Now, back in the days when this was built, they didn't want jails to look, imposing, so it was sort of looks like a church or a big fancy mansion out here. And this is it, right there in the center of your picture. Travels with Phil continues in Council Bluff, Iowa. This is the Squirrel Cage Jail. Now, it's no longer being used other than as a museum and as an oddity. And the oddity about it is that this jail, let me back up here, is designed so that one jailer can take care of everyone, or at least back when it was. It's a rotating cells inside. And literally, the jailer needed somebody. The jailer could just turn a crank, and the prisoner that was in question or that needed to be contacted would rotate around to the jailer. That is definitely a unique design, a new unique idea. And I'll be honest, I'd never heard of this place. I just saw signs in several places and figured, okay, is it the size of a squirrel cage, or is it to cage squirrels, or what is it? So came by, did a little research, and that's it. So let's take a look inside. The Smithsonian Magazine has listed this as the second most fascinating jail museum behind Alcatraz. And why is that? Well, probably because the jail is designed to rotate, as you can see by these images here. So let's hear from Museum Director Kate Slaughter.
So rotary jail is a set of cells in a circle. I liken it to a drum usually that rotates on just the bottom axis. Ours has 3 levels that rotate as one large piece. Ours is the largest ever built as far as we know. It has an additional balance piece at the very top. There's one way in and one way out on every level of our cells.
So if it's this guy's turn to get out, they would originally have to rotate the cage from here to over there.
So this shows the only entrance on this floor.
It was made for ease of use of the jailer. So an unarmed jailer could manage all the inmates housed within just basically by turning a hand crank. The whole building, the center of the building turned, which could allow him to let one inmate in and one inmate out as it rotated. So it was a lot easier to manage all the inmates that were here. We're the only 3-story one that was ever built, and out of the 18 across the United States that were built, there's only 3 left.
Originally, to heat it up in the winter, they put a bucket of burning coals near the cells and hope it would radiate throughout the entire building. And eventually, they did add radiators to warm it up. Now, back in the days before electricity, they had lanterns for lighting. Toilets were these recesses you see there in the core of the cage. So as you can imagine, it was a loud, dirty, and stinky environment. The jail could be dangerous if a prisoner wasn't paying attention or was trying to get hurt. One prisoner kept jamming his peg leg in the openings, eventually had to confiscate the wooden leg. And like a lazy student on your table or in a cabinet, poorly distributed weight could cause it to stay jammed for days. While it was an interesting concept and could be operated with limited personnel, over time they realized the drawbacks of the design. And while most of the time the prisoners were adult men, the jail also held adult women and some juveniles. And at one time there was even a 3-year-old child here whose parents were arrested and there was nowhere else to keep them. The jailer and their family lived in an apartment on the 4th floor. Some families didn't like it there. And you can take tours through the facility. It is an operating museum.
Most people that come through mention that they think it's haunted. I have never seen anything in the time I've worked there, but I have heard stuff. I have heard whispering, but I couldn't understand it. I've heard footsteps in different places. I've heard shuffling of feet. Sometimes things get moved around. Once in a while there's a light back on. I've heard some laughter. There's a music box on the 4th floor that has played on its own upon occasion. I mean, that energy has to go somewhere, and I've never seen it as anything negative. Not at all.
In 1932, a strike by local farmers involved the squirrel cage jail. As you can see by this headline, some of the local farmers felt the prices they were getting for their crops was not enough, so they decided to stop sending their grain into town. Other farmers said, well, we'll sell it to you. Well, this led to confrontations between the two groups. Roads were blocked with logs, boards with nails in them, and with people.
So we could house 90 comfortably here at the jail. Well, the sheriff actually went out and arrested every one of these picketers.
Sheriff Langston said if the Pottawattamie County Jail bulges with picketers, it'll just have to bulge, because I'm going to fight it out if it takes 5,000 deputies.
And so now all of a sudden we've got 150, 160 farmers that were placed under arrest and housed in our facility. Well, that upset other farmers, and so they were going to bust them out of this jail.
Well, stories spread that 1,000 farmers were coming to break the picketers out of the jail, and the sheriff instructed his deputies to shoot to kill anyone who attempted to storm the jail or break them out.
Well, the sheriff at the time was Percy Langston. He was also part of what we consider now the National Guard, and he had access to every type of weapon you could imagine. But that was very taxing on the few deputies and the few town marshals and police that we had at the time. So he swore in a bunch of special deputies, and a lot of these guys were military vets.
But eventually, by August, cooler heads prevailed, and the strike was essentially over. So let's look at the Squirrel Cage Jail Museums. Now, they have a wide variety of material in here, including records on all the prisoners.
We do have a lot of things that have been donated to us. So the second floor landing and the third floor landing is kind of a rotating display. And so each season, whatever happens to be up there, we take down and we go through our archives and find something that might be of interest to anybody coming to take a tour. And so we set up a new display. So that gets people to come back, because there's always something new to see anytime you come here, each season that you come. As far as future plans, I would love to see this jail rotating again. I don't know what it would take, but I would really like to see something like that happen. Loot to law enforcement area. Since this was part of the sheriff's office, we wanted to be able to display some of the old cool sheriff's equipment that we have. So on display we have radar guns, we have top lights off of a patrol car, we have preliminary breath tests, we have old service revolvers, billy clubs, handcuffs, you name it. We wanted to showcase what the sheriff's office has and what a part of the building was. This was part of the sheriff's office, and we want to make sure that history is not forgotten about.
Boy, this makes me feel old. I actually used one of these devices when I was on the highway patrol. All right, they also have a section dedicated to officers who have died in the line of duty.
The sheriff's office has had a total of 5 fallen officers, regrettably, and we have their names listed and memorialized here. This was part of the sheriff's office, and we want to make sure that history is not forgotten about. Mark Burbridge was my best friend. He worked at the sheriff's office with me. So after his untimely death on May 1st of 2017, we were contacted by the Omaha Police Department, who has a Horse of Honor program, and the family got to choose how that horse was painted. There would be scenes on that horse. So we have a full-size horse outside. It's made out of plaster and ceramic and plastic, a little bit of conglomeration of a few things. The family gets to choose what is painted on that horse. A lot of people, when they look at us in uniform, all they see is a badge. They don't realize that we're fathers, we're grandfathers, and all that. We're a human being. So the designs that were chosen to be painted on this horse tells the story of a man, not as an officer. So as you walk around the horse, you see who he was as a person. You don't see him as a badge. And his wife wanted to make sure that it was here.
So this has been a look at the Squirrel Cage Jail, Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is across the Missouri River from Omaha, Nebraska. Travels with Phil. Back to you.
The Historical Society of Pottawattamie County in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Please feel free to make comments below as long as the language is family friendly. And if you like this video, please click on the thumbs up button below. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the circle with my picture in it in the lower right-hand corner of the video. The arrow is pointing at it now. And once you have subscribed, you can be notified of when I have a new video posted by clicking on the bell icon in the description field below the video. Thanks again for watching.